Inconsistently consistent.
Okay, you know what I mean.
Yes, I know.
Start her off, Rachel. Start her off.
All right. Hello. Welcome to the Inconsistently Inconsistent podcast. My name is Rachel.
And I'm Melanie.
And we are two people who talk about whatever we want. And yeah.
On the internet.
Yeah. Because we
For
are
shits and giggles.
Yes. Yeah.
Speaking of shits, what are we talking about today, Rachel?
Nice segue. So today we are talking about highly requested by us to each other.
To each other.
This is the Rachel and Melanie show. This is not a listener show.
Yeah, speaking of shits, we're talking about the trial of that woman who shit in the bed.
We're talking about the trial of Johnny Depp. I almost said Johnny Hurt. That is not right. Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard.
Yeah. The celebrity trial heard around the world.
Yes, that lasted for 5 weeks?
7, I think.
Oh, dear Jesus. Yep.
Yeah. It felt like 70.
It felt like an entire year.
It was a millennia.
Mm-hmm.
I went gray.
I've been gray long before this trial, and now I'm definitely got gray after this.
As we've said, we're 92.
Yes, we are. Yeah, so obviously this kind of goes without saying, but these are obviously just my opinions as someone who is not a lawyer and who has observed.
And these are my opinions as a lawyer, a person who has legal background, who watched this case as someone who has legal knowledge, but also as just a person who was just enthralled with it. Amazing. Just it's very entertaining.
Yes, yeah.
From all aspects.
Yeah. So obviously, you know, some of you might agree with us, some of you might disagree with us. If you do have feelings either way and you do want to like let us know or have a discussion, please keep it respectful. Otherwise, we gonna block your ass.
I mean, I probably won't.
You probably won't, but you know, just
yeah, I don't really care.
You know, like just like if you message us on like Instagram, Facebook, or send us an email, just be respectful. That's all we ask, because this is there's topics in this trial of intimate partner violence, IPV for short, and sexual assault. So just kind of keep in mind that it's a sensitive topic for, I think, everybody. And just be respectful.
Yeah. Also, keep in mind that we are both Canadian, and this is an American trial. So, for me, as a Canadian lawyer, my legal knowledge is Canadian based. So, looking at this, I can't really analyze the law that they are using as much as specifically, but I can look at kind of like the overall aspects of it. If that makes sense.
Yes, that makes sense. Does it make sense to you guys? If it doesn't, leave us a comment.
If it doesn't, you can't really communicate with us at the moment.
No, you cannot.
Since you are not here. So, what was the trial about, Rachel? Do you want to tell us?
So, the trial was a defamation lawsuit trial in which Johnny was saying that this article that Amber had released with somebody was basically a defamation of character with claims of abuse, sexual and physical, towards her.
Mm-hmm.
And Amber counterclaimed. I don't know exactly what her counterclaim was about.
Yeah, so the suit from Johnny Depp was the 2018 op-ed from Washington Post that Amber had written, and it never named Johnny specifically, but it was like targeted at him according to Johnny, and that was what the suit was about.
Mm-hmm.
He said it was about him, basically. And then the countersuit was based on uh, the Depp Waldman statements. So basically, Waldman was the ex-lawyer of Johnny, and he said a bunch of statements like Amber's abuse claims were a hoax,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff to that effect. And basically, Amber was countersuing to say that Johnny instructed him to defame Amber by saying those things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's kind of what it is. So Johnny was suing her for 50 million US dollars in damages.
Mm-hmm.
And Amber was counterclaiming and suing for $100 million US in damages,
Mm-hmm.
which is a whole lot of money.
Yeah. And now, as put my lawyer hat on. Yeah. So defamation is just a shit show of a thing to deal with. Defamation, slander, libel, they're all kind of like same thing, same word,
Mm-hmm.
synonymous. But defamation is basically bad mouthing someone in different ways, depending on whether it's written or spoken or other forms that you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, to get any monetary value out of a defamation claim, you have to prove that you had an actual loss of something, whether that's income or financial loss of some kind, right? So to claim something as big as 50 million or 100 million, they have to come and show actual numbers to get something that high.
Mm-hmm.
So numbers like that, it's a high bar.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is a very high bar. Well, I guess if you think about it, when she made these allegations against him for IPV, he ended up losing his Fantastic Beast deal.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people didn't want to work with him. So he was losing money
Yeah.
because of these claims that she had published.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
don't know what she would have lost because she kind of was the only thing that really happened towards that is she did lose her Aquaman 2 deal. But I don't think really she had any other.
But she didn't.
Yeah.
She didn't actually lose it in the trial. They figured that out.
What?
Yeah. During the trial, she actually didn't lose. Uh, she hasn't lost the Acumen 2 deal until after the trial was finished.
But she did lose it after, though, right?
Yeah, I think they've announced now that she's no longer in Aquaman 2.
Okay.
But it was not, during the trial, she was not minimized her role in any way, and was still on in contract to appear in it and get the same amount for it,
Mm-hmm.
despite all the things about the whole Johnny Depp Amber Heard drama.
Mm-hmm.
Um, no matter what, she was still doing that. They interviewed whoever, whatever company does that,
Mm-hmm.
like whatever studio. They had one of the execs come on and deposed him,
Okay.
and he said that.
Interesting.
But the thing is, when you're dealing with defamation, you can't just say, I like someone badmouthed me and now I don't have work.
Mm-hmm.
You have to prove that the reason that you don't have that work, like the reason Johnny Depp lost Fantastic Beasts, was because of what Amber said.
Mm-hmm.
And that's called causation. So it's like you have to link A and B.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the difficulty comes in with legal cases and why lawyers get paid the big bucks.
Lawyers get paid.
Yes, we get paid the big bucks.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a difficult case to make, because how do you prove that someone made a comment and link that to someone losing their job?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then how do you link those two together? So how do you prove that?
Mm-hmm.
How can you prove that on paper? Because it's not like in like in science where
Mm-hmm.
you can prove something, or in math where you can prove something and show it over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that's not tangible.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's where it gets tricky. So that's the shit show.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just reading some of the background information. So it looks like, yeah, they got divorced in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the divorce was finalized in 2017. She had filed a restraining order against Johnny, saying that he like verbally and physically abused her and was always under the influence of alcohol and drugs. And the pictures that we saw where she posted of like her quote unquote bruises.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. So it looks like, I guess with regards to like the Fantastic Beast, um, the UK tabloid The Sun published an article that was titled "Gone Potty." How can Jake? I know, right? Gone potty.
Okay. Okay, so say it again.
Gone potty.
Mm-hmm.
How can J.K. Rowling be genuinely happy casting wife beater Johnny Depp in the new Fantastic Beasts film?
Oh shit. That's the one he sued for.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one he sued in the UK for, and that's the one he lost on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because he sued in the UK first
Yes.
against the Sun,
Mm-hmm.
that paper, and he lost.
Yeah. Because
And
it says
with
that the trial in the UK was only done before a judge, as opposed to the one in the US was done before a jury.
yeah, and with regards to that, trying to prove defamation um, against the Sun, like against a newspaper,
Mm-hmm.
the newspaper didn't have um, like it's not the same thing as the trial here,
Mm-hmm.
like in the US, because the Sun really only had to prove that they went and checked their source,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which they had a source, they checked their things, they thought they had what they thought was the correct story, and they posted it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they're like freedom of the press
Yeah.
type of thing, right? So there's a reason he lost there compared to someone saying things over and over and over in the US who's just an individual.
Yeah, so it says that the allegation against him had been proven to a civil standard and were found to be substantially true. The verdict found that there was overwhelming evidence that Depp had assaulted Heard in 12 of the 14 alleged incidents and put her in fear of her life.
Yeah. And there was a lot, like, I don't know as much about the trial in the UK, but from what I do know, it said that a lot of the evidence that we saw on Johnny's side in the US trial was not allowed in the UK trial.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it might have just been because it's not relevant to the newspaper, right? A lot of what we saw in the US trial was to prove that what Amber was saying was false. But a lot of that evidence to prove what Amber's saying is false is probably not relevant to prove what, like, to go up against a newspaper. Right? It probably was not relevant in that same kind of playground in that case. But I'm just kind of spitballing on that.
Yeah, so yeah, he resigned from the films at the request of Warner Bros. I guess Warner Bros was like, yeah, you need to GTF. Yeah, apparently he tried to appeal it, and the Court of Appeal in March 2021 rejected his request, concluding that the appeal had no real prospect of success. And they said that the trial had been full and fair. Yeah.
And then you see when he resigns, when someone resigns as opposed to getting fired, you know, like, a resignation technically looks better on someone's resume than a termination, but a termination would look better for causation in a defamation trial, because getting terminated shows that links more to the what Amber is saying, you know, defaming him, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because if he just quits, then it's like, how do you link the fact that he quit? Like, he didn't lose the job because of what Amber said. He lost the job because he quit. The easy way for her to defend that.
So yeah, it says, so now it's talking about like her op-ed in the Washington Post, which is where she spoke, like the title, Amber Heard, I spoke up against sexual violence and faced our culture's wrath. This has to change. It just kind of goes on about that. Apparently the co-op didn't mention Johnny directly though, which is interesting.
Yeah, it never mentioned him, but it did. If you go down in the article, it actually had a lot of boat imagery.
Oh.
Which was interesting, since he has the whole Pirates franchise.
That is interesting.
And the fact that it was like 2 years ago, I became a 2 years ago, I became a public figure representing domestic abuse, right? Because that was referring to when she got her divorce and her restraining order and came out of the courthouse with that mark on her face. And TMZ was tipped off and got a photo. But we have no idea who they were tipped off by. So it seemed to be potentially from Amber's team, but Amber said on the stand it was not her.
Yeah, then I guess the comments in the Daily Mail from Adam Waldman, you know, he said, Amber Heard and her friends in the media use fake sexual violence allegations as both a sword and shield depending on their needs. They have selected
Yeah.
some for sexual violence hoax facts as the sword inflicting them on the public and Mr. Depp.
That was one of the statements that she tried to sue on.
Yeah.
But that's one of the ones that they found that she didn't get anything on.
Yeah. She only got something on one of them.
Yeah. The one she did get anything on was the one about basically damage of property in the penthouse. Because basically, well, I have the verdict here. So the verdict was that the jury awarded Johnny $10 million in compensatory damages, and they tried to award him $5 million in punitive damages, but Virginia court doesn't allow that because of their laws. They only have a max of $350,000, so the judge had to knock that down to the maximum that was allowed. So it's actually $10,350,000 now is what he got. And so they had 3 statements that he was suing on that were defamatory. So the first one was that Amber wrote, "I spoke up against sexual violence and faced our culture's wrath. That has to change." They said that was proven all elements of defamation against Johnny, and the statement was false. They said the defamation was intended, and it was done with actual malice. And the fact that it's done with actual malice means that she cannot get out of it by bankruptcy. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So then the second statement they found her on was, "Then 2 years ago, I became a public figure representing domestic abuse, and I felt the full force of our culture's wrath for women who speak out." They proved all elements of defamation on that one. They said the statement was false, and it was intended defamation, and actual malice on that one is again. So, third statement had the rare vantage point of seeing in real time how institutions protected men accused of abuse. He said, "Proved all elements of defamation against Johnny. Statement was false. It was intended defamation and done with actual malice." So she's locked in on that. She cannot get out of that $10,350,000, even with bankruptcy. The one thing on her countersuit she did get, like she did win on, because she was awarded $2 million for compensatory damages and 0 for punitive damages. So they didn't give her anything to punish Johnny with. Is the statement from Adam Waldman, which was Johnny's lawyer, ex-lawyer. So quite simply, this was an ambush, a hoax. They set Mr. Depp up by calling the cops, but the first attempt didn't do the trick. The officers came to the penthouses, thoroughly searched, interviewed, and left after seeing no damage to face or property. So Amber and her friends spilled a little wine and roughed the place up, got their story straight under the direction of a lawyer and publicist, and then placed a second call to 911. So they said that was proven all elements of defamation. It was intended defamation and actual malice.
Okay.
So that one, and you can see in that one, there's no actual insistence of abuse. Right? And it does mention the hoax again, right? So basically, to me, this says that the jury thinks that all Amber did was beat up the penthouse.
Yeah.
All they gave her is that, well, she didn't beat up the penthouse, but she did claim falsely to be abused by Johnny Depp. Because they did not believe these statements of abuse.
Okay.
From that verdict.
Interesting.
I think it comes down to not just the statements, but the fact that Amber really only had herself and, well, first of all, herself and her sister were the only two people with, like, corroborating her story.
Mm-hmm.
And Johnny had himself and, like, 20 people.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, like, he had, I don't know, might not be 20, but there was at least a dozen people he called to the stand, all backing up his side of the story.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was consistently backing up exactly what he said. And they were all saying complete opposite of what Amber was saying.
Mm-hmm.
So her credibility was shot from the get-go.
Yeah.
And her story didn't make sense.
No, it didn't make sense at all. Yeah, it's just interesting. I'm looking at like some of the witness testimonies for Johnny. His sister testified, and it looks like she said that Depp had sworn never to perpetrate domestic violence after being abused as a child by their mother, which
Mm-hmm.
is interesting because based on my research, as someone who takes an interest in like that's this stuff in psychology and everything, and who is hopefully going to become a counseling therapist, fingers
Mm-hmm.
crossed. Normally, people who are abused as kids have a higher rate of becoming an abuser themselves. Just because, you know, that's kind of the environment that they grew up in. That's what they were exposed to. And a lot of the times they think that that's normal and that's how you're supposed to act.
I
So
thought it was actually more likely that people that were abused are more likely to become abused again.
it can go both ways. They're more likely to do both.
Mm-hmm.
There's a high rate that they're going to be abused again, and also that they could become abusers themselves because that's all they know. Like if you grow up
Mm-hmm.
in a household and you see your mom and dad fighting and yelling and that's how they resolve conflict, then you're going to think that's how, and you're not exposed to like healthy alternatives to resolve conflict and say that's all you see in like your life, your friends and everything like that, you're going to think that's normal
Mm-hmm.
because that's all you've known. And like you're not going to understand that there's different ways to handle things. So a lot of people who have abused people, it comes down to like, yes, they've been abused themselves, and that does impact you as a child.
Yeah.
Like there's a
And
lot
Amber was abused as a child too.
of there's a lot of environmental factors that influence how people handle conflict and deal with trauma. Because uh,
Mm-hmm.
Johnny said that he would hide from his
Mm-hmm.
mom. So like this is how he deals with abuse and trauma. Is his coping mechanism is he leaves the situation.
Yes.
Whereas, for example, Amber's coping mechanism could be to react,
Yeah.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I am
And
not a licensed therapist, counselor. Don't take this for fact. I'm just going based off what I've read and what I've seen, you
mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah, and all I think what you're saying is right, because also there's, like, going off of the psychologists and the counselors and stuff that did testify, they talked about that as well. They talked about Johnny's coping mechanisms of hiding and running away. That's
Hmm.
what he did based on what he experienced in his childhood.
Hmm.
And then they also talked about Amber, and I don't know if they talked about her history of abuse
Hmm.
because I don't remember seeing that, but I know that they that at some point I'd read or heard something about her history of having abusive father and stuff, but
Hmm.
she seems to be the one that lashes out. And I know at least one of the psychologists, I believe it was a female uh, psychologist, was talking about how Amber got really upset and like started to attack whenever she felt like she was about to be abandoned.
Hmm.
So she would start a fight anytime there was she felt like Johnny was going to run away. So she would start a fight, Johnny would try to run, that would make her start to, like, fight more, and it would just, like, vicious circle.
Mm-hmm.
So these two were like oil and water.
Yeah.
Did not mix.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, maybe oil and water is not even the right thing. It's more like gasoline on a fire.
Yeah, it's basically throwing gasoline on a fire, you know? Like, you
Mhm.
have one person whose coping mechanism is to walk away, which,
Mhm.
if
Sets
you're,
off the other one.
which sets off the other one because then they feel like abandoned.
Mhm.
But, like, I know for some people they have to walk away because otherwise they'll kind of, like, lash out and be
Mhm.
irrational and say or do things that they would normally not do, which is no excuse for any sort of abuse, violence towards anybody. But, you know, some people, they're like, I need to walk away. And, like, if you don't let that person walk away, then you're kind of just adding to their frustration.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it looks like Amber's former personal assistant described her as belligerent and abusive.
Yeah.
Um, um, said that she testified Heard used psychedelic mushrooms, ecstasy, and cocaine and was prone to manic episodes, similar if to someone was on some kind of amphetamine drug. Interesting. Oh, yeah. Mutual abuse, the therapist. I don't think this is the muffin one. Laurel Anderson.
No, that wasn't Muffin one.
No, that was not the Muffin Man one.
No.
Oh, yeah. So the therapist in 2015, she testified that both Depp and Heard had been beaten by a parent as children,
Mhm.
characterizing Depp as well controlled over decades and not violence against previous partners, but that he was triggered when with Heard.
Mhm.
Anderson stated that for Heard, it was a point of pride to her if she felt disrespected to initiate a fight, and that if
Mhm.
Depp was going to leave her to de-escalate a fight, she would strike him to keep him there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the what I remember talking about
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
I think they played her deposition.
Yeah, it was recorded, it
Mhm.
says.
Yeah.
And same with like Depp's doctor,
Mhm.
Dr. David Kipper.
Yeah.
He had
But
diagnosed with ADHD
that
by
Laurel that
yeah.
Laurel Anderson one,
Hmm.
she never actually like she never actually heard anything from Johnny uh confirming that he had done any abuse toward Amber.
Hmm.
It was all one-on-one sessions with Amber where she confirmed that there was abuse.
Hmm.
And Eli is getting in on this.
He agrees. Oh, yeah, looks like yeah, his physician diagnosed him with ADHD, bipolar disorder, depression, insomnia, substance dependence, and chronic reflux. That's an odd one, chronic reflux. Um. Oh yeah, he's the one who witnessed. He's the one who witnessed the finger.
He's the one that talked about the finger, and
Yeah,
then the
he's the one.
guy objected to himself.
Yeah, he went to Depp's rented property in Australia after the incident with Depp's finger had been severed. He saw blood and that the house was messy. Uh, yeah, saying that Johnny had to be stable for the surgery. Interesting. Just looking at some of the
Mhm.
testimonies. Yeah, a nurse that worked with Kipper said that Herb would instigate arguments with Depp.
Mhm.
She also described searching the property for Depp's severed fingertip. Oh my god.
I think one of the biggest things was the evidence in the case, right? Because there was a lot of audio recordings,
Mm-hmm.
but when it came to pictures or video.
Mm-hmm.
There was no videos of like any actual fights.
Mm-hmm.
And the pictures that they had, like Amber's pictures of any injuries she had,
Mm-hmm.
were not consistent with the story she told.
Yeah.
Right? The severity of the abuse she was talking about did not line up with the pictures she showed afterward.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it just did not match, right? And then she would tell a story about horrific abuse, and then in cross-examination, Johnny's team would show a picture of her at an event the next day with no signs of any injury,
Mm-hmm.
right? With no swelling, nothing, when she clearly would have had completely like busted nose, broken bones, right? But if any of this had been consistent, right? Like with someone doing that much damage with big chunky rings on their fingers, doing
Mm-hmm.
that much punching. So the stories just didn't make sense.
Yeah.
So it didn't make sense, and then the pictures didn't line up, and then the witnesses that were giving descriptions of seeing her with injuries or bruises or anything like this, their descriptions didn't match with the severity of what the abuse she was telling on the stand didn't match.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't believable to the jury. Whereas Johnny's Johnny's story and everybody that was backing him up was believable to the jury. So that, I think, is what won over things for Johnny.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was really what the tipping point was.
Yeah.
Plus, when you get a jury trial, I think half of it, well, not half of it, but some of it comes down to likability,
Yeah.
right? Especially when it comes to experts. So when
Mm-hmm.
you put an expert on the stand, especially when they're going to talk about something really friggin' boring,
Yeah.
if they're really irritating, you don't want to listen to them.
Yeah.
Like, there was a psychologist that was there for Amber, and I don't know what his name was, but it was a man, and he was making weird faces.
Oh yeah, him,
You
the one that
remember that guy?
twitchy. Yeah, the twitchy guy where he was like,
Yeah. And he
yeah.
got so angry,
Mm-hmm.
right? He was getting so angry at that lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
I bet not one bit of what he said went through to the jury. And I
Oh.
don't remember a thing that he said either. And I watched his whole testimony, and all I can remember is the weird faces and him talking shit to the lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
right? And just like, it was comical. But that's all I can remember from that part. And the Missy with the muffins, all I can remember is that part about that, but at least that wasn't her fault.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But when it comes to certain things like that, likability does come down to it for the jury, because the jury's not there like with legal degrees.
Mm-hmm.
They're just there with, you know, they probably watch CSI or Law and Order once or twice, and they're on the jury just trying to deal with stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
if they don't like what's the person that's in front of them, they're probably not going to be able to pay attention, because they've had to sit through hours and hours of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the muffin one was Shannon Curry, Dr. Shannon Curry. She was a forensic psychologist.
Yeah, I liked her.
I loved her. Yeah, so it
Yeah.
said that, hired by Depp's team to provide evidence that against Heard's claim that she had post-traumatic stress disorder. So she testified that Heard was grossly exaggerating symptoms of PTSD when asked about them, as Heard told Curry that she had 19 of the 20 core symptoms of PTSD, which Curry stated was not typical of somebody with even the most disabling form of PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
I think for most mental health illnesses, there's a threshold you need to meet in order to be diagnosed with them. And I think PTSD is one that you need to have like so many recurring things within a certain month period. Because you have like short-term PTSD, which is only for like a few weeks. You know, it has to be less than 3 months for like short-term PTSD. That's not the technical term. Don't come for me. I don't know it off the top of my head. But in order to be diagnosed with actual PTSD, the things need to be pursuing for 3 or more months. So she diagnosed Heard with borderline personality disorder and histrionic personality disorder.
Yeah.
Which I don't think I've ever heard of anybody being diagnosed with histrionic personality disorder.
I believe they're both in the cluster B.
They are. It's a very interesting. Let me actually just pull up my notes.
Cluster B disorders are fun.
Yeah.
They are a real good time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let me just pull up my notes, actually, and I can tell you for sure.
They're also, I say they're a real good time until I have someone on the opposite side of me.
Yes. Hang on, I'm trying to find the thing where it talks about the clusters. Because I have notes. Of course I have notes. Are you surprised? No. Yeah, I think those are cluster B.
Yeah, cluster B is a fun one.
Okay, so here's a little thing about PTSD, since we're on this topic. There's 20 symptoms grouped into 4 main areas. So the first one is intrusion, reoccurrent re-experiencing of traumatic event. Avoidance, efforts to avoid thoughts, feelings, or reminders of trauma. Negative alterations in cognition and mood. And arousal and reactivity are kind of...
You're saying this, and I'm just like checking off the list. It's like, got it.
Yeah. Personality disorders.
Got it.
Yeah, so personality disorders, there's cluster A, which is paranoid, schizoid, and
yeah, those are not so fun.
No. Cluster B, histrionic, narcissistic, antisocial, and borderline personality disorder. So for our dear listeners, histrionic personality disorder is behaviors that don't lead to stable and satisfying relationship because other tires of providing this level of attention. They may try controlling the partners and possibly show dependence. And they're viewed as self-centered, vain, overly reactive, shallow, and insincere. And this is more common in women than men. So, you know, there's some traits that are associated with it. So it may involve extreme versions of extroversion and, to some extent, neuroticism. So for borderline personality disorder, like, you know, there's pattern of instability, they have identity problems, impulsive decisions, drastic and rapid shifts from one emotion to another, unusually intense emotional responses to environmental triggers, fear of abandonment or rejection. Impulsivity is a big one. It's rapid responding to environmental triggers without thinking, caring, erratic self-destructive behavior, suicide attempts. They might have brief psychotic episodes. You know, there's a bunch of genetic contributions and there's environmental factors. So, like, I can kind of see that.
Yeah.
You know? This is her opinion. She based her diagnosis on evidence. Yeah, it looks like Heard's team was trying to be like, oh, you had already met, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, even though she didn't diagnose her with PTSD, she could still have possibly been harmed psychologically by the alleged abuse. Yeah, she said it's rare for males guilty of abuse to accuse their female partners of abuse. Yeah, I can kind of see that. I can see
Mm,
that. It's interesting because
mm,
I think this is just me again. Don't take what I'm saying as fact. People
mhm.
just don't. It seems that most relationship there's typically like one abuser.
Usually.
Usually, there doesn't seem to be like two abusers.
In simple things.
Hmm. And obviously, once
Back
again,
in ye old times.
yes,
Ye
this is
olden times.
the olden times. This is just kind of
Mhm.
my views, obviously.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
and we have to take into account that men typically don't report abuse because there's a lot of
Stigma.
stigma surrounding it.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And the fact that it's hard to tell when someone is fighting back if they um are they an abuser
Hmm.
or are they just defending themselves,
Hmm.
right? So let's say that what the trial found is correct
Hmm.
and that Amber is the abuser and she physically abused Johnny Depp and he was not abusive in any way toward her and any, you know, issues that anything that he did was self-defense,
Hmm.
right? It could look like him defending himself was abuse
Hmm.
just because he's male and potentially that is just how we as society we are like kind of set like in stone to look at it,
Hmm.
right? Because most of the time we think, well, oh yeah, women are the victim in these domestic violence situations,
Yeah.
right? But the trial only found defamation. It only found that she was lying about those things,
Hmm.
or the jury found that. But you know, that's as much as we know.
Yeah, and it just seems. Um, I had a thought. Hang on. Yeah,
Let me catch the thought.
there's a lot of stigma surrounding male victims of abuse.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, there's a really well done show on Disney Plus. It's called A Teacher,
Oh,
and it's about a female teacher who they start she starts a sexual relationship with one of her students.
oh,
Yeah. But the way they go about like showing, I guess, the after everything's said and done, because they do get found out. She ends up getting, spoiler alert, she ends up getting charged and going to jail for her crimes. And just looking at the way that people are treating like the victim, the male victim, it's gross because they're all
oh.
like,
Okay, so it's like a female teacher, male student.
yeah, it's female teacher, male student.
Okay.
And the way they're treating him and like they're giving him props like, oh man, you banged a teacher, like that's so hot, like that teacher you banged, she's so hot, man, like good on you type thing. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just, it's gross to see how people view that mentality, because there's a whole section on porn websites that are dedicated to like, there's like teacher student and like older woman younger boy, and they're like seducing him, trying to show him like the ropes, and people think that every person has this fantasy of having like a woman come on to them. And I think even in the movie Wedding Crashers, there's a scene where Vince Vaughn's character is assaulted by a woman. And
Jesus, assaulted?
Yeah.
I have not seen the movie Wedding Crashers.
I think it's Wedding Crashers. I think it is. But there's a scene where like she is like sexually assaults him and he tries to tell his friends the next morning and they're like, "Oh man, you're just being a pussy. Like you totally wanted it. You were totally turned on by that. Like that's so hot." And I'm like, "No, that's not hot."
What the fuck? That's a comedy.
I know.
I've never seen this movie.
I know.
Ew.
I
Oh
know.
my god.
It's like,
Sexual assault has no gender,
no.
right? Assault has no gender. Victim has no gender. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, what you look like. It can happen. And people need to shut the fuck up and just help people.
Yeah. Like it's the movie, like the series, it's a mini series. It's fascinating because there's a scene in it where he goes to college after, because he's a senior in high school. And he goes to college after, and he's trying to like, what's the word for you trying to get in a frat? I don't know. We didn't have that type of
Pledge.
pledge. That's the word. You're pledging and stuff, and he makes the pledge, and like one of their traditions is they hire a stripper to come in, which is like
Mm-hmm.
fine, whatever. But the stripper is like, "Oh, yeah, you're a bad boy. You're a teacher's pet, aren't you?" And like he's obviously trying to process with what happened.
Yeah. Ew.
And it's just the way that people are treating it versus if it had been reversed, if it had been a male teacher and a female student, like people would have been like, "Oh my god, are you okay? Like I can't believe that happened. I can't believe he used his power over you and blah blah blah."
Mm. Though, one instance where it didn't, do you remember the show Pretty Little Liars?
Yes.
That there was a relationship between Arya and the teacher Ezra, and
Mhm.
they ended up getting married at the end of the series, apparently, even though he was her teacher in high school and they were having an affair while she was his student.
Mhm.
And they're just like romanticized it and, we're on again, off again forever. And, they get married and it's like, oh yeah, it's so cute. Oh yeah, we ship them.
It's like, "Oh yeah, this is goals." It's like, "No, this is not goals. This is gross."
No, icky,
It's
icky,
gross.
icky, icky. Stop it.
I thought he did get in trouble and then Arya was like, "Oh no, it's fine. We love each other." Or something.
Um, I thought they got in trouble too and stuff at some point, and they had issues. It's been a long time since I watched that show, but it came up somewhere, and somewhere social media was something, and it was like showed their like wedding picture,
Mhm.
and I was like, oh my god, they got married. I forgot they got married.
See,
I don't think I watched the whole series.
I stopped watching after it got weird.
You mean the first episode?
No, I think it was like halfway through season 3 or something where they started throwing out like supernatural stuff or whatever.
I mean, it got weird in the first 5 minutes, Rachel.
But when it got really weird. Yeah.
Episode 2?
I think it was like end of season 2 or start of season 3 where it got super super weird and I was like, "Okay, I can't watch this anymore." But there's a guy on YouTube who he does recaps of the shows. And he
Mm-hmm.
did Pretty Little Liars and I was watching it and I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's gross. Oh, that's weird. Oh, why did they do that? That doesn't make any sense."
Yeah.
So, if you want to watch it, it's called An Appropriately Unhinged Recap of Pretty Little Liars. And he does like the meme of the dude with the board where he's got all the strings and
Yes.
he does that. He actually has a wall and he has strings and he does it to represent the seasons and like it's great.
Oh my gosh.
It's great.
But that meme is like the inside of my brain on the daily.
Yes. Oh, man.
Where were we?
Johnny Depp, Amber Heard.
Show of a trial.
Dr. Curry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just reading about
I want to talk about Elaine because she pissed me off.
Can we talk about hearsay?
Oh, hearsay?
Hearsay.
What do you want to talk about hearsay?
I don't know. I just that's their thing, isn't it? All they know to do is hearsay.
Hearsay? Hearsay? Hearsay?
Hearsay.
Hearsay.
I think that's the only.
Like those friggin' seagulls from like what movie was it? Mine?
Oh yeah.
Mine?
No, mine. Hearsay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. It was really nice though when Elaine was trying to do a direct. No, she was trying to do a rebuttal with Amber, and she could not get only 3 questions in, and Camille was just like objection, pressing the microphone. She's like, I'm just gonna keep my finger here because I'm gonna have to say objection every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
I was just like, you go, Camille Vasquez. I want to be you when I grow up. Apparently she got promoted.
Camille?
Yeah.
Oh, yay!
I saw that. She got promoted. She's no longer an associate, which should have been way long before now. Obviously, she's amazing.
Yes. That's awesome she got promoted. That's the word I'm looking for. But yeah, I mean, so you probably can't really comment on this. So I'm going to make the comments for the both of us.
Okay.
Her legal team, incompetent. Like, I did not go to law school. I tried, did not succeed to get in the 4 times I applied. Spent so much money on those damn fees. But it just seemed to me, as somebody who was an outsider observing, legal team incompetent. Like her whole legal team, both her lawyers, Elaine and whatever his fuck face was. What was the male one? The one that kept saying hearsay and asked Johnny if he signed the document 3 times in the megapint. What was his name?
I don't know his name.
Oh, but yeah, see, we don't know.
Elaine number 2.
Elaine number 2. We'll call him Elaine number 2. But Elaine number 2, like that whole legal team is just, they were trash, man. Like they trash.
I say nothing.
I know. That's why I'm saying it for us, and you can't say anything because you are a lawyer and you are not allowed to comment on other lawyers. You have told me this off the record. So you can just sit here and listen to me vent about how much of a trash piece of human Elaine and Elaine number 2 are.
One thing I will say is, okay, after the verdict, so after the verdict came out, the day after, Elaine, and her name is Elaine Brendahoff, whatever her name is, she goes on like a bunch of talk shows, right? Yes. Did you see her interviews?
Yes.
And right, so she starts going and talking about the trial and about the verdict and about how Amber's going to appeal. Speaking of, Amber can't appeal unless she can post a bond in Virginia because of Virginia law for the amount of the damages, so $10,350,000 plus legal fees for the appeal, which she doesn't have because Elaine said it on television. Elaine says she doesn't have that money to pay that on television. She did it. She said it.
I know. I've seen that. She said, people asked, like, oh, does she have the money? And Elaine was like, nah, she ain't got the money.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
I'm just saying that, right?
okay, as your lawyer, why would you admit that your client does not have the funds to pay? Like,
Yeah,
what?
especially because you need those funds to pay to appeal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she said that they were going to appeal, which she can't because she doesn't have the money, which she just admitted. But then what I don't like is she said a bunch of things about the trial that were wrong. She started to basically gaslight and say things that happened in the trial, but say them differently than what they happened in the trial. She
Mm-hmm.
trumped it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what the fuck are you doing? And that's why I'm saying this, because I do not respect it. And then one thing she also said was she started talking trash about Johnny Depp's legal team.
Mm-hmm.
She said that they were doing things improperly and that they were doing things inappropriately and stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't respect that.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying.
But I seen one interview where they were talking about it and they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna appeal. And I don't know if you I think I might have sent you the TikTok
Probably.
where they have like she's on I don't know what shows, I think like the morning show, Good Morning America, one of those things, Elaine is. And she was talking about it and one of the hosts, he's like, I'm a former NFL player and
Yeah, I
after a
saw that.
loss, yeah, after a loss, sometimes instead of looking at myself, I look in the mirror. I was kind of like, oh.
Yeah. He was like, look at yourself and what did you do wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then she was like, Johnny's team did things improperly.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, how dare you speak poorly about another lawyer?
Mm-hmm.
Because in Canada, that could get us in trouble with our own bar, like our own, like basically our own governing body, by
Mm-hmm.
speaking poorly about other lawyers or like judges or stuff like that. So, like, just talking shit about other professionals in the business publicly
Mm-hmm.
get you in shit.
Yes.
I don't know how it works in the US, but I just don't respect it. Elaine got a big mouth.
Yeah. I mean, I think that she's probably never going to I mean, if Amber does appeal it, which I don't think she will because she don't have the money.
Not unless she gets a sugar daddy.
Yeah, she probably wouldn't hire them.
Unless Elon Musk is going to pay it.
I seen apparently he was supposed to testify, but he withdrew.
Okay, what else should we say? Maybe our favorite moments from the trial.
Yeah.
Favorite comical moments, maybe.
I think one of my favorite moments, and this is because I made a TikTok of it, is the mega pint comment. When Elaine number 2 said to Johnny, you poured yourself a mega pint of red wine.
Yeah. And he's like, a mega pint?
Yeah. He's like, I poured myself a large glass of wine. I thought it necessary. Oh, man.
I really liked Johnny learning what hearsay was and playing back and forth with the lawyers and going, like, whenever he would say something and know it was hearsay, and then you'd see him, like, raise his eyebrows and look over and wait for the objection.
Yep.
That was always fun.
That was fun. I seen the compilations. He'd stop and he'd start to speak, and then I'd be like, objection, hearsay, and he'd be like, I'm learning.
Mm-hmm.
That was my favorite when he made the comment about, he's like, oh, I guess that's hearsay, isn't it? See, I'm learning.
Yeah. I like that one.
Mm-hmm. My other favorite moment, obviously, because Camille Vasquez is a goddess and I'm assuming she got promoted from associate, so she's a partner now.
I don't know what her title is. She could be like junior partner or something like that, but she got a promotion of some kind.
Okay.
She could be superior goddess of the world. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great. When she was like, Mr. Depp got you that role in Aquaman, didn't you? And Amber was like, excuse me? And she looked at her and was like, Mr. Depp got you that role in Aquaman, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
And the look on Amber's face,
yeah,
was just like, oh.
Yeah. Another one of my favorites was Camille's. A couple of times during that cross-examination, Amber was trying to like squirm out of answering questions.
Mm-hmm.
And she would stop her and make her answer.
Mm-hmm.
And tell her not to look at the jury.
Yes, when she told her, don't look at the jury.
Yeah.
Don't talk to them. Like
Yeah.
I didn't ask you a question.
Mm-hmm. And one thing she did say, yeah, like I didn't ask you a question, like to stop like making an argument or something. I can't remember how she phrased it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's something I've never seen done, and I saw another lawyer online mention it that I watched like YouTube videos of, Attorney Tom. That's his YouTube channel. He mentioned it too, that I've never seen another lawyer do it, where she basically told Amber to shut up in between questions.
Mm-hmm.
Because she was not being asked a question, she's not being asked to talk, and Amber was basically trying to fill time to appeal to the jury because she's in cross-examination being like filleted.
Mm-hmm.
And Camille was like, nah, this is my time, bitch.
Yeah.
Right? And I was like, I'm gonna use that. If I got a witness like that sometime, I'm gonna be like, Judge, can you tell the witness to stop? Please? Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. My other favorite moment was the Milani Cosmetics.
Yeah.
Coming out and being like, she couldn't have used this because this was not released until December 2017. And I was like, oh, yeah. Also, I loved the comment about they were eating candy and joking. And then one of Johnny's other lawyers leaned over and was like, can you pass me some candy, Johnny? And he's like, hell yeah, here, have some candy.
I never saw that, actually. I need to see this clip.
Yeah. That was good.
I never saw that one.
You didn't see that one?
No.
Oh, that was a good one.
I never saw that.
It's another TikTok one, because TikTok, okay, here's another thing. I'm on TikTok. I hate to admit this, I'm a huge TikTok person. I may have a slight problem with TikTok.
See, and I'm stuck in YouTube.
Yeah. And all the TikToks with like, they put the, the meme music, like do, 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 do.
Yeah.
They put that over a lot of like the clips, especially the one where Johnny's like, I'm learning about hearsay, and they'll have captions like pauses for hearsay objection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I usually see those, but like when I scroll through Instagram ones, I'm not on TikTok very much.
No.
I'm old. I'm 92, Rachel.
I'm also 92. Well, I'm 91 technically. Because my birthday hasn't happened yet, so I'm not 92.
No, you're 82. That's not how it works.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I'm 82. I will say, I told you this, and on a side note to our listeners, this is how you know you're getting close to 92. I went to Avril Lavigne Thursday. It was amazing. And I did a lot of headbanging, as one does.
Mm-hmm.
I woke up Friday, and my neck was sore from headbanging.
Did you see that Ben Chu, Johnny's lawyer, during his closing statement had a stuffed alpaca in his pocket?
I did. I was just reading that where apparently someone kept trying to come in. One fan repeatedly brought 2 alpacas in a reported attempt to brighten Depp's day before and after court. This was in response to Heard's lawyer agreeing with Depp that he would not work on another Pirates of the Caribbean film even if Disney offered him $300 million and 1 million alpacas.
Yeah, he said that. And they showed a deposition of a Disney executive, and they had to ask her if they had a contract with Depp to do or if they had been in talks with Depp to do another Pirates movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had to ask her specifically if they had a contract for 300 million and 1 million alpacas. And she didn't react. She was just like paused and then said no. And I was like, how much do you have to know Johnny Depp and know how crazy he is?
Mm-hmm.
And like all over the place to just think, yeah, he'd say that. Like, that's just normal.
Mm-hmm.
Normal Johnny would negotiate alpacas into his contract, yes.
Yes, a normal human being in general, right, Hexa? Come here, my baby.
His normal Disney contract, $1 million, alpacas, of course.
So if I ever get famous in one of my many multiverse things, which I've told you about, apparently when you dream, someone thinks you're seeing your eyes of your variant. One of mine is apparently married to Sebastian Stan, and we did a Marvel movie together.
Yeah.
So if that ever happens, I'm gonna ask for 1 million puppies.
Yep.
As part of my contract, right, Hexa?
1
million puppies and 1 million cats.
Yep. And Disney will give it to you.
Yeah. They will. So I guess one of my, trying to think some of my other favorite moments from the trial.
I loved when Camille got there was a part where she was doing cross-examination and she was talking about how Amber didn't have any pictures of her injuries, and she's like, but you have a whole bunch of pictures of Mr. Depp sleeping, don't you? The sass that came out during that question. I don't understand how she didn't crack. Like, I wouldn't be able to do that without any like a laugh, like getting in someone's face, like and how anybody in the courtroom kept a straight face during all that. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I seen Heard's lawyer Elaine Bretterhoff said that Heard absolutely could not pay the damages. Yeah, you don't want to say that. You don't want to say that.
You don't want to say that, especially when you need that money to do the appeal. Yeah. She might as well go around. She definitely can't appeal.
Yeah.
And she definitely can't, claim bankruptcy and get away with this because the actual malice. So she's stuck with this, having to pay this, and he will garnish her wages for the rest of her life. Because that's what happens.
As somebody who gets garnishment orders, yes, it is. That's what happens. I don't get them myself. I just want to clarify. I get them with my work. I get them sent in, and like we have to set them up on payroll.
Yes, Rachel, you get garnished all the time.
Oh man, I wish I could garnish dude's wages for what he owes me, but he's not working, alas. So one thing I'm reading I'm surprised there's a Wikipedia page already about this, but I'm also not surprised there's a Wikipedia page. Yeah, there's a Wikipedia page on the trial. If you look up Johnny Depp, Amber Heard, there's
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize there was one already.
Me neither. That's why I was like, oh, there's a Wikipedia page already. So one of the things that people are saying is that the trial has been described as backlash to the #MeToo movement and potential setback for women's rights.
Yeah, and that came out of first Amber's mouth.
Yes. Because she put that in her statement.
Yes.
Actually, I'm going to do a dramatic reading of both of their statements.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
So, yes, Hexa, I know.
Yeah, Hexa, it's gonna be hard.
Hexa's like, please don't do this.
Yeah, please don't. We have so much to live for.
Okay, so this is Amber's statement. It doesn't start off with my dog on a bee. The disappointment I feel today is beyond words. I'm heartbroken that the mountain of evidence still was not enough to stand up to the disproportionate power, influence, and sway of my ex-husband.
Yeah, the mountain of pictures of him sleeping.
Yeah, really though. Honestly, let's be honest. If you were married to Johnny Depp, wouldn't you take pictures of him sleepy?
Yeah, but I wouldn't say that's evidence of being
I would be like, this is for me and me alone.
Pictures of him with ice cream spilled down his shirt.
I'm even more disappointed with what this verdict means for other women. It is a setback. It sets back the clock to a time when a woman who spoke up and spoke out could be publicly shamed and humiliated. It setbacks the idea that violence against women is to be taken seriously. Johnny's attorneys succeeded in getting the jury to overlook the key issue of freedom of speech and ignore evidence that was so conclusive that we won in the UK. I'm sad I lost this case, but I'm sad
in the UK.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Sun, the newspaper won in the UK.
Not you, Amber.
Yes. Amber wasn't a party in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't get to do anything in the UK.
No, she was only a witness based off what I read, because they tried to get this defamation lawsuit dismissed, and they were like, nah, she was only a witness. She wasn't the defendant, so F you.
I think it's important we tear apart the statement as we go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Don't let the lies build up.
I'm sad I lost this case, but I'm sadder still that I seem to have lost a right I thought I had as an American to speak freely and openly. So I was talking about this with my grandma, as one does. Mm-hmm. You talk about issues with your grandma. There's a difference between speaking freely and openly. And you disagree with somebody. But if your statements have the intent to harm or not disapprove, trying to think of the word, but do damage to a marginalized group or something, then it's not freedom. It's not an opinion or freedom of speech. It's just hate.
Yeah.
So that was Amber's statement. Mm-hmm. Johnny's statement, our beloved Johnny. I'm not going to do a bad accent like Elaine, don't worry. 6 years ago, my life, the life of my children, the lives of those closest to me, and also the lives of the people who, for many, many years, have supported and believed in me were changed forever. All in the blink of an eye. False, very serious, and criminal allegations were levied at me via the media, which triggered an endless barrage of hateful content, although no charges were ever brought against me. It had already traveled around the world twice within a nanosecond, and it had a seismic impact on my life and my career. And 6 years later, the jury gave me my life back. I am truly humbled. From the very beginning, the goal of bringing this case was to reveal the truth, regardless of the outcome. Speaking the truth was something that I owe to my children and to all those who have remained steadfast in their support of me. I feel at peace knowing I have finally accomplished that.
Is that the last of it?
That was the last of it, yeah.
So, to me, the difference in their statements, like, what came out in the trial is the evidence clearly, to me, was really weighing in Johnny's favor, right? And it clearly showed that, like, as the jury saw, that there was not enough evidence to find what Amber was trying to tell her side of the story. Her side of the story didn't make sense for what the evidence was, what was there, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Right? Her statement trying to say that it's, like, gonna bring down women's rights, I don't agree with. Right? Because she's trying to make this a women's issue. This is a domestic violence issue.
Yes.
Right? And Johnny is a domestic violence victim, regardless of gender. And the whole Me Too movement should not be, like, Me Too and not include anybody based on just because they have a penis or because they don't identify as a woman or any other reason like that. And Johnny didn't come out of this looking squeaky clean either, right?
No.
Like, he obviously has a whole lot of drug and alcohol issues. He said some horrible shit.
He did.
Right?
Yeah. He even admitted in what I was reading that he doesn't believe he can function without drugs and alcohol because his doctor tried to detox him.
Yeah.
And he couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, they both, hang on. He's not a saint either, you know, so I don't want people to think that, like, oh, he came out of this and he looks like this redeemed him. This did not redeem him. You know, he's a human. He makes mistakes. Humans all make mistakes. If we didn't, we wouldn't be human, and that would be very concerning. We would be lizard people. But, you know, he owned up to most of it. I think he denied a lot of his substance use issues. He said he was only addicted to one particular drug. And even though, you know, Amber claimed there was, like, cocaine and oxy and heroin, because they're like, oh yeah, you shared heroin with Marilyn Manson and you did cocaine with Paul Bettany, which, first of all, that came as a shock because I was like, Vision doing cocaine? Hearsay.
Let me see the photos.
Let me see the proof that Vision does cocaine.
Let me see the sleeping photos of him.
Yeah, and I don't agree with that statement that it's a step backwards. In anything, I feel it's a step to realize that the Me Too movement, like you said, is not just for people who identify as women. You know, it's for anybody, whatever your identity is, whether you're male, female, don't identify as either, whether you want to just identify as a blob. For anybody.
Yeah.
Anyone can be a victim of IPV.
And like with regards to, I don't know where I was going with that. That thought went out the window.
Try and catch it before it goes.
Oh, it's gone.
Okay, he's gone. He's okay. But I think this kind of, hopefully, it gives more men courage to speak up.
Oh, yeah. So, like, with regards to, like, the Me Too movement, I think it kind of gave us a, yes, like, we went to, like, believe people coming forward and reporting, but also don't just believe people without looking at evidence.
Yeah.
Right? Like, don't just jump on the train of, oh, yes, absolutely. And then, like, because someone said this, we should totally tear down the person they accused.
Yeah.
Without any evidence.
Yeah, there's a lot. I don't think people realize this either. There's a lot of harm that can come from false allegations, specifically ones of sexual assault.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like those do a lot of damage, not just for the accused, but for future victims. Because this is kind of the stuff that discourages them from coming forward, you know?
Yeah.
They don't feel like they're going to be listened to, or they think they're going to be like lying about it. And even now in 2022, it still happens. Like, for example, look at the case in Newfoundland with the RNC officer. He's appealing for the third time.
Yeah.
Against that, because he's saying that she's lying, or there's not enough evidence, or whatever he's trying to appeal for this time.
I don't know what he's appealing for this time.
I don't know. I seen that and I was like, really?
Yeah, I just, like, any cases with sexual assault stuff, I usually just, like, plug my ears and go like, not looking.
Yeah, I can see that. And it's just, it makes it hard for people to want to come forward, because there's only 3 out of, say, if you have 1,000 people who come forward, only 3 of those may actually have some justice served.
Yeah.
Which is astonishingly low. But
yeah.
That also doesn't include victims who identify as male. I believe that only includes victims who identify as female.
Yeah.
So it's
The world is a shit show.
Yeah. The world is an awful place.
Mm-hmm.
And we, unfortunately, as blobs, live here.
Welcome to the blob world.
Yes, welcome to the blob world, where everything is blob. Everything is glue.
Everything is glue.
Everything is glue. I don't have any other thoughts about this. I think I got most of them out.
I think we've covered just about everything that I can think of.
Yeah. I think we have as well.
Yeah, I really can't think of anything else.
Nope, me neither.
Outro?
Outro. So yeah, I guess, as I said, if you have thoughts on the trial and everything, and you want to send them to us, we're Inconsistent Podcast 1 on Instagram. We are Inconsistently Consistent on Facebook. And our email address is inconsistentpodcast1@gmail.com. And if you do send us thoughts, please be respectful. We will not take people.
We will not take abuse.
We will not take abuse, because there are, one thing that one of my coworkers said is, there are toxic fans in every fandom. And unfortunately, this trial has kind of brought out toxic fans of Johnny and Amber. And if you're one of those people who feel highly for Amber or for Johnny, and you're not willing to listen to what other people have to say, if they have a different opinion of you, then go away. We don't want it.
Yeah. But if you're willing to be, respectful and have a conversation that doesn't involve, being, shouting abuse at people, we'd be happy to discuss things with you.
Yeah, we would. This is kind of a different episode than what we normally do. It's a bit more on a serious note, I think.
Yeah, we're usually giggly.
Yeah. But if you kind of like this format and you want us to talk about more serious things,
I could bring on the true crime shit. I'd like to do that.
And get our perspective on it, like, let us know.
If you'd like me to traumatize Rachel more, I could.
Oh, honey, it's going to take a lot to traumatize me.
Oh, I could find some cases.
You want to bet?
Oh, don't test me. I'll find them.
But yeah, also reminder, our movie watch.
The wonderful, the amazing, the creature of antiquity, the Dino Shark.
Our movie watch is Dino Shark. So you can find it on YouTube under the free movies if you want to watch it and listen to us attempt to talk about it while crying. That's going to be the end of the month. That will be our last
beautiful masterpiece of cinema.
Yeah, our beautiful masterpiece of cinema, which I have roped my friends into watching with me. So
I will be watching it with my dog.
I can't watch it alone. So I need somebody.
I'm an introvert, so I only watch things alone.
I'm an ambivert, so yeah.
What the fuck is that?
Where you're a little introverted and a little extroverted, depending on your...
Rachel, you're lying to yourself. You were extroverted as fuck.
I'm pretty extroverted.
Tell the gym story again. Tell the gym story.
I could tell the gym story. I could tell the haunted gourmet story.
Yeah. And you think you're an ambivert. What the fuck? Shut up and end the podcast, Rachel.
Okay. On my lawyer's advice, I'm going to end this podcast. Bye.
Bye.